Hello dear viewers, welcome to this educational program which is intended for students of grade 12. In this lesson we're going to revise composition. Now we'll take a short break, then we'll be right back. So stay with us. Welcome back, dear viewers. In this episode, we're going to revise composition. In the first period exam, your composition will be marked out of 30 marks. Okay? So 3 marks to be considered for using pre-writing technique for outlining, and an outline should include an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Now, the topic is going to be semi-related to what you study in your textbook, namely from Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. So Unit 1 is talking about the law, Unit 2 is talking about migration, and Unit 3 is about human values. Now, the topics could be a report, it could be an email, a formal email or an informal one, an argumentative topic, a chart to analyze, or a table to analyze. Now, for today, we're going to focus our attention on writing about an argumentative topic. Remember that the length of your essay should be 10 sentences or around 120 words. Okay? So, first of all, what is an argumentative writing? What do we mean by argumentative writing? Okay? So, in this kind of essay, we not only give information, but also an argument with opposing and with supporting ideas. Supporting ideas are sometimes referred to as pros, and opposing ideas or contrasting ideas are referred to as cons. Okay? So these are arguments in favor of, for, and arguments that are against, okay, the issue being discussed. Now, the main goal, the purpose of your writing is to convince, okay, or to persuade people to change their opinion that many of them do not want to change. So you have to do an extra work to try to convince them. You have to be argumentative. You have to be convincing in your arguments, in the sentences you're going to present to the reader. Here are a few examples of argumentative topics. So let's read them together. The first topic reads, stress is good for the human body. So write the arguments in favor of, the arguments that are against, and then give your opinion at the end. Right. So here is another topic which is argumentative, and this topic is taken from Lesson 7, Unit 1. Okay, let's read it together. Should motorists who drive too fast in residential areas be banned from driving? Another topic which is taken from your syllabus, which reads, people should solve minor issues in court. Another topic, should animals be used in research? Competition isn't good. Do violent video games cause behavior problems? All these topics are argumentative. Okay? Now, here is an argumentative essay. Look at the different paragraphs. Okay? So this is the first paragraph, another paragraph, third paragraph, and 4 paragraphs. They are well balanced. Okay? So there is a balance. Remember that you need to write 10 sentences for your first period exam, which means that you can use 2 sentences for the beginning, 2 sentences to end your writing, and 3 sentences in each paragraph in the body. All right. The first paragraph is called an introduction, and the purpose of the introduction is to set up the topic of your essay, of your writing assignment. So you are setting up, you are preparing the reader to a certain issue. Okay, so you provide some background information and so on. Then you write your thesis, and by the thesis, or in the thesis statement, you let the reader know what the topic is about. The second paragraph is paragraph or body paragraph 1, in which you present the arguments in favor of, or the arguments for. With the arguments for, you provide justification, you provide explanation, you give examples, details, and also reasons, right? In the second paragraph, it is going to be similar to the first body paragraph, except that it is going to have the arguments against, the arguments that run in opposition to the topic being discussed. So arguments against, again, you present your justification, you give details, you give examples, and also reasons. The last paragraph is what we call a conclusion, and in the conclusion, in an argumentative writing, you express your opinion, whether it's directly or indirectly, and you present or you summary the main points of the argument. Now, let's start with a chart, okay? So we're going to have a look at the following chart because it's going to lead us to an argumentative topic that I'll show you later on. Now, let's read this, what is written here. We have an employee, we have a worker behind his desk, so he's at the office, and we find here that a statistic that says 41% of employees surf the web for 3 hours per week. So workers surf the web, they use the internet for 3 hours every week. 64% employees complete personal tasks at work. By personal tasks like sending emails, chatting, checking your website or bank account for to transfer money or to pay bills, and so on. So these are personal tasks. They complete it while they are at work, okay? 64% of the employees. Then 37% of the workers surf the web frequently, constantly, while at work. 60% online purchases made during work hours. And the last piece of statistics says that 40% loss of office productivity is due to cyber slacking. Cyber slacking means leaving work behind and focusing on personal tasks. Great. This leads us to talk about such an issue. Should companies or businesses allow their workers to use personal space or workspace computers to do their personal tasks or to do tasks of their own? What do you think of this? In here, we need to write arguments for, and we need to have arguments against, okay, such a topic. So what we need to do so far is to brainstorm. By brainstorming, we mean to jot down words, to jot down phrases, to jot down ideas, okay, so later on we will use them for an outline or to complete an outline. So let's go through the arguments for first, and then later on we'll talk about the arguments against. So those who argue for using computer or workspace computers in the workplace for personal purposes argue that employees or workers perform better when they are not put under stress, when they are at ease, when they are working in a friendly environment. Okay? They perform better. Their performance is boosted. Their performance increases. Well, they also argue that work is not a prison, and workers shouldn't be under constant supervision or under constant monitoring. Also, some of them argue that we should make employees feel at ease, comfortable, because work is like a second home for them. Employees would feel a sense of belonging to the place where they work if they are comfortable. Some others argue that we should use workspace computers in personal tasks at work, because sometimes we need to use the internet in case of an emergency. For example, somebody calls and says that a member of the family had an accident and he had been transported to a hospital. You need to get into the internet to check the whereabouts or the location of that hospital, or maybe to get a phone number to call them, okay, to make sure that they are fine, and so on. So in case of an emergency, many people think that workers should use company computers to do personal tasks. Now let's move on and talk about the arguments against. Well, those who are against argue that it's waste of time. And remember, we're talking about company time. Time is money, okay? So losing track of time surfing the internet can result in an unproductive day. It contributes to the financial loss of a company. Okay? Now, next argument says that company time is for production. It is not for entertainment. And also, many workers, many employers says that it's hard for employees to multitask. And multitasking means doing 2 or 3 things or even more at the same time, like chatting or sending a message and typing a report or sending a fax or photocopying some papers for the company. Okay, so it's very hard to multitask. And even though some workers try to multitask, they lack concentration. Okay, and lacking concentration might lead employees to make avoidable mistakes. Many mistakes are done in the company that can be avoided if workers pay attention, if they focus on what they are doing, if they put their mind to the tasks that is in front of them. And this leads to poor performance. Okay? Now, here is the outline now. We have an introduction. And in the introduction, we are going to provide some background information, and also we will lead the reader to our position concerning the issue. And in this topic, your position is going to be like so. Companies should allow their employees to use work computers for their own purposes. You are going to support this topic or this position, right? So then you have the arguments for and the arguments against. We got these from the brainstorming session, and at the end we will finish the conclusion with expressing our opinion, and we will sum up the main points. Right, so let's move on to the next task, which is going to answer the question, what is an introduction? An introduction is the first paragraph of your argument essay, and it should contain a brief explanation of your topic and some background information, so the reader will know what you're going to talk about, and then you should include a thesis statement. Okay? In this case, the thesis statement will be your position. Okay? You're going to say whether you are for or against, whether companies should allow their employees to use workspace computers for their own purposes or not. Okay? This is your position. Now, here is an example of a paragraph. Okay? Let's analyze it together. Let's talk about it for a while. Now, this part here is background information. You are trying to set up the topic. You are going to tell the reader, well, I am going to talk about this. Okay? So the second part is what we call your thesis statement, in which you're going to express your position. Let's read it together. In this essay, I will argue that companies should allow their employees to use work computers for their own purposes. Okay? This is your position. Notice that your position came after you paved the ground. Okay? You prepared the reader for such a topic, for such an issue. Let's read how the writer of this essay tried to set up the issue. He said, employers and employees sometimes find themselves at an impasse when it comes to having employees use workspace computers for personal business. How a company handles the issue is a matter of preference. Some businesses have a weak or lax policies about personal use, while others are severe, are strict, rigid when it comes to related use. Here is our outline, and we are going to use the arguments for only to start talking about the arguments that we should include in body paragraph 1. Okay? So we'll focus only on the arguments for, and we are going to list them in a coherent way. Notice that I'm going to use the first argument, and then I'm going to move to the third point I mentioned in my outline. I'm going to skip this. I will leave the second one for later on. Why I wanted to show you this, it's because an outline is a work in progress. It is not a final draft. From the outline, you can cross out arguments. You can change the order of your arguments. You can come up with new arguments later on when you started writing. So notice that it's so flexible. Okay? You can correct grammar mistakes at this phase even. Okay? So again, it's a work in progress. Okay? So feel free to do that. Now, here are a few phrases and expressions that we use to introduce arguments for. Okay? So, for example, you can start your body paragraph 1 saying one very convincing point in support of, and you complete the sentence. You can also use this phrase, another argument in favor of, and you complete the sentence. You can say, it is widely argued that companies should allow their workers to use personal or to use company computers for personal uses. Okay? It is generally believed that, some experts point out that, or many advocate scientists support the view that, or numerous are those who are in favor of. And several critics are of the opinion that. Notice that we use some of these arguments or some of these expressions in order to argue in favor of or to argue for a certain topic, right? Now, here is a paragraph, and the body paragraph starts with a topic sentence. What is a topic sentence? A topic sentence is the first sentence, often a first sentence, that carries the main or the most important idea of the paragraph. Okay? In this paragraph, the topic sentence happens to be the first sentence. Okay? Numerous are those people who strongly believe that companies should allow workers or employees to use workplace computers for their personal purposes. This is the topic sentence. I'm going to develop this topic sentence by using some details, some examples. I'm going to provide some explanation and give some reasons. Okay? So notice here that I'm going to provide justification and explanation. And this sentence suits the purpose. Okay? Another sentence is used to further or to give further explanation. Okay? Here is the sentence that gives further explanation. All right? After that, the writer of this paragraph gave examples. These are concrete examples. Let's read them. It's very important to know that you can use real-life situations or life case scenarios in your essay. Checking one's email account or using a social media website to quickly post a comment shouldn't be considered a crime. Okay? So this is a concrete example, as I said. Here is another example. Okay? Let's assume a family member has a car breakdown and wants you to come to pick them up. So this is an authentic situation. Now, notice that the sentences flow from one sentence to another. A paragraph is not made of separate sentences, okay, like this. It is a continuous flow of sentences. What makes a paragraph coherent is the use of linkers. Now let's talk about some phrases and some expressions that we use in order to introduce arguments against. Okay, so we can use one very convincing point in opposition to, another argument against, a further common criticism of, many experts are against, most critics are opposed to, and numerous people oppose the view that. We use these expressions in order to present, in order to show our arguments which run against the issue or against the position that we assumed or we took in our thesis statement. Okay, so this is an exercise for you. Try to put back this sentence in its correct place in the paragraph. So we have the sentence here. It says, in addition to that, these employers believe that workers cannot concentrate if they are working and chatting at the same time. We have this sentence, and here is the paragraph. Notice the numbers which are written in different font color. I want you to find the place of the sentence that is given on top, depending on the linkers and also depending on the logical transition from one sentence to another. Okay, so I'll give you some time, about 5 seconds to think. All right? So notice that in the sentence it says, if they are working and chatting at the same time. Well, the place is right here. Because the last sentence says multitasking. Multitasking is the definition for working and doing other things at the same time. So notice that there is some sort of logical connection between the sentences. So we have transitions, and also there is some sort of logical coherence and flow from one idea to another. Okay, now let's talk about the conclusion. In the conclusion, you use certain expressions and linking words to present your opinion. And your opinion can be stated or said directly or indirectly. Here are a few linkers that we use to express our opinion openly. Right, we can say, in conclusion, it is my opinion that workers or employees can use or should use workplace computers in order to do personal tasks. Okay, we can use also, on balance, I firmly think that. All things considered, I am convinced that. And taking everything into account, I am inclined to believe that, and to conclude that, or to sum up, I do not agree with. Now, let's move on to editing, okay, to correcting the mistakes. So it is a good practice that when you finish writing the first draft, that you reread your writing and then try to polish it, try to find some mistakes, correct some errors that are in the writing. We're going to do that in this paragraph. Notice that we have 2 paragraphs, and we have some words which are underlined and written in a different font color. I want you to correct these mistakes. Okay, so let's start reading the first paragraph. At some workers, employees use computers and other company equipments. What is the mistake here? It's that equipment should be replaced with the word equipment. Okay, equipment refers to many tools, okay, for their personal needs. Their here is a demonstrative pronoun, like here and there. Okay? But what the writer wanted to say, he wanted to say their personal needs. It is a possessive adjective that he wanted to use, okay, or possessive pronoun rather, to be used. So the spelling of a possessive pronoun is like so, their personal needs. Should employers allow employees to use machine and equipment at work? This is a sort of an interrogative sentence. And as you know, an interrogative sentence should not finish with a full stop, but rather with a question mark. So here, to correct this mistake, it is a punctuation mistake. You should use a question mark instead of the full stop. Right, we continue. There are countless problems at the workplace. Countless means so many, a lot, numerous. Okay, so that's why the word problem or the noun problem should carry the S marker of the plural form. So instead of the noun problem, we should say problems. There are countless problems at the workplace. One of the main issues whose people always pay attention. What do you think? What's the relative pronoun I should use here? Okay, it is a relative pronoun that refers to issues, and issues is not something animate, it's not possession, so we use whose. It is an object, inanimate. Okay, that's why the relative pronoun I should use here is which. One of the main issues which people always pay attention to. We have the word or the verb are. Are is used for plural subject. Okay? But here I'm talking about one of the main issues. I'm not talking about all the issues, I'm talking about just one single issue. So one of the main issues is employees using companies or company computers or equipment for their personal use. In my own opinion, employers should not allow their. Okay, we've seen this before. That's why students repeat the same mistake again and again throughout their writings. If you find one mistake, you can correct 3 or 4 other mistakes. Okay? So here is, in here, the writer made the mistake again. Okay? So allow their employees to doing this. After to, we should use the base form of the verb. And because this is an infinitive, we have to followed by the base form of the verb, and the base form of the verb of this verb do is do. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, dear students, now it's time for practice. As you know, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better you'd become at what you're doing. So to master writing an argumentative essay, you need to write and write again and again. Here on this slide, I'm going to give you many argumentative topics. Choose one and then write about it. Write an introduction, the arguments for, the arguments against, and then in the conclusion, express your opinion openly and directly, and then sum up the main points of the arguments that are on your side, and hand it out to your teacher. He will be more than glad to correct it, and he will provide you with some feedback. Dear viewers, this lesson has come to an end. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in my next lessons. So, till then, take good care and goodbye.